video. I'm going to be doing a pick a card tarot reading for you. I'd like to do a dream interpretation reading, which I know is kind of a tricky thing because dream interpretations are very personal. But hopefully this will just give you some different ideas to think about, especially if you have a specific dream in mind that you'd like to learn the meaning behind, or even if you just feel like your dreams have had an overarching feeling, whether you remember them or not, but you just are kind of left with these feelings in the morning or whenever you dream. Yeah, so let's see if we can ruminate. Over here we have the first pile you can choose, which is the Aquarian Tarot. We have the Star Spinner Tarot for the second group. And then option number 3 is the Cosmic Slumber Tarot. I'll put timestamps below, and I'll see you in the reading. Alright, welcome group number 1. So we're going to see what the cards have to tell you about your dream or dreams that you've been having lately. Right off the bat, we have almost entirely rods or wands. I would say this is a dream of a creative, spiritual, or sexual nature. So the card that was at the bottom of the deck when I finished shuffling was the Knight of Rods. So I would say the overarching idea is that this is about going after the things that you're passionate about, because knights are all about action and rods are about like fire and passion and creativity, spiritual things. And the card that is representing the event from your past that caused this dream, or is the background for the dream, is the Nine of Rods. And I think of this as a card that shows up when you hit like that final obstacle before you feel like you've completed something, and it makes you just want to give everything up. Like it feels like the final straw. I mean, like, look at how sad this figure is as they look out like on this forest. They're like, there's just no way through that. But also you've built up all of this passion and emotion around whatever the goal is. This will be interesting because like obviously there's no way you can tell me the dream or any of the symbols that are showing up, so this is just going to be based on energy. But if you see any symbols that look familiar, that seem to tie in with your dream, or colors if you dream in color, see, maybe the pinks and purples are really important. But yeah, I guess that recently or sometime in your past you hit some major obstacle on the end of your road, and it's just made you feel completely blocked. So the theme of the dream that you had itself is the Eight of Swords. It's about being trapped, especially by your mind and your thoughts. A lot of times when I look at the sword cards, I think of the swords themselves as your thoughts, and this, like, you're completely surrounded by them and blindfolded, so you're just kind of stuck stewing in them. So you might be thinking of this obstacle as a failure and letting all of your thoughts, like, basically, like, nail you into the ground, nail you into this place of, I can't get out, I'm stuck. And the dream might just be, you may have even had a dream where you get like stuck in mud or feel like you're drowning or trapped. But it's definitely kind of a scary thing. So this card also represents not just the theme, but whether it's a dream that's trying to encourage you of something or warn you. And I would say that it's a warning. Just not to get overwhelmed and bogged down by your thoughts. Maybe you're like me and you think really consciously while you dream, and basically it's just like your brain in a weird dream scenario. And so you're overthinking the situation the same way you would if you're awake, instead of just like, being free and dreamy. So the card that represents the waking life block, so whatever is happening in your life that's making you feel blocked from moving on from this, that's being represented by the Five of Rods, and this is a card that I think of as being about competition. And like, I always think of this as like a bar room brawl. Sorry if the stand's shaking, I hate when it does that. But yeah, so this is, I always think of just like too many people being involved, and maybe your discouragement is competition. You don't feel like competing with people, and the thing that you're passionate about, there's just too many people involved. If this is like a desire for a specific person, you feel like you're gonna be not chosen. And I can't think of a better way to say that right now, but I don't know, I kind of feel like you're probably this person. That's the one I'm always drawn to, but especially this time, it's like all of these people are in the midst of this fight, and this one's like not even looking, not even paying attention. His mind's elsewhere. So maybe this obstacle is that you just kind of have to get in there and fight a little bit too, be a little bit more active, and you're just kind of aloof to what's going on. And the message of the dream is the Two of Rods. So this is if the dream's trying to give you any kind of advice. I think, I'm really, really paying attention this time around to the rose on the shoulder. I don't know what that means. Maybe something about displaying beauty. Well, and obviously roses are beautiful and thorny. Not 100% sure how that relates, but so the message of this card is, if you think of it as like this story, the two is usually about, so you've decided, you've had this spark of inspiration, this thing that you realize you're passionate about, and you want to set out, and it's like, I always think there's a little bit of a somberness to this card, like you're holding the world in your hands and there's a world of opportunities, but that's overwhelming. Like, how do I start? I always think of twos as like planning a little bit. So the message might be that, so if you're feeling like an obstacle and feeling trapped, I'm definitely getting a lot of sense that this is about acting instead of thinking, and maybe that's just because that's my lesson for life, is stop thinking and just start acting a little bit. It's like you already have the world in your hands, and I'm not even getting as sad of a feeling from, sometimes this character looks really sad to me. It doesn't feel that way. I think you are hopeful about setting out. It's just getting past whatever that obstacle is that's jumping up for you. It's like, remember how it felt when you were setting out and you felt like the world was in your hands and you had a world of opportunities. Remember that feeling and let that drive you to reach the rest of your goals. And also remember that there's a lot of different ways to complete something. It's not always like there's only one way to get through these trees. And then, so your final lesson from the dream is the Six of Rods, which is all about success and victory, and I think pride. This is a really proud person. It may be like a small victory, but it's like the victory that you need to keep you going on the journey. So I'm guessing that this wants you to focus on something that happened before you felt discouraged, before you felt like there was obstacles, and remember what that success felt like and let it propel you to the end of through the obstacle, and let it carry you to the end of the goal. And don't let that be the only success. Like, be proud of it, wear it proudly, but know that there's still more for you to do to reach your goal. Yeah, I hope that that made sense or was fun to ponder about. And yeah, I hope you will leave a comment if there's anything you want to talk about, or if you'd like a little bit more in-depth anything. I don't know, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for letting me read for you. Good night. Hi, welcome group number 2. So let's see what your dream or dreams as of late have to tell you. So obviously you're not here with me. I can't hear what your dream's about now. So it's kind of hard to focus on specific symbolism, but I'm going to be talking about the overall themes and maybe feelings that your dream is getting across to you. So let's see. So the past event that caused this dream, that, sorry if you can hear the traffic outside, but the past event that was the cause of this dream, that brought it into your subconscious, is being represented by the Three of Cups. So I would say this has to do with some form of friendship, maybe a group of friends, I'm trying to see if it's telling me anything else about that. But I'm getting the sense that it has to do with 3 or more friends. So maybe a difficult friend group. What is it? 2's company, 3's a crowd, or 3's company? I don't know. And the theme of your dream is being represented by the 4 of Coins. So this might have to do with maybe a friendship, maybe like a friend group that goes out a lot and you're worried about your finances. Because the 4 of Coins is usually sometimes about a greediness or a materialistic. Maybe it's about you're feeling like your friendships are kind of superficial, and like maybe you want to grow, and you care about things, like the things that this friend group is concerned with don't feel as important to you anymore. Like, you're evolving, and it's kind of hard to remain. I don't know, it's just like you're going through one of those transitions where you're like, what does this kind of friendship have to offer me anymore? So you're thinking about kind of keeping locked away. And so in a dream sense, you could have a lot of people that you know showing up in your dreams. And there's a sense of detachment from them. And the waking life block So what keeps you from addressing this in your waking life is being represented by the Chariot. So the Chariot's all about willpower and forward motion, I think. It's usually about just like gunning for something. Like he's not even looking, the Chariot's moving without him even having to see where it's going. And maybe that's the block, is that you feel a little out of control, like you got on this moving train and it's going forward really fast. You've got these companions with you, but you don't really remember why you wanted to get on that train in the first place, or it's going somewhere that you didn't think it was going. Usually the Chariot's a very victorious card, but just judging by so far the messages that have been coming through with the other cards makes me think that things are moving really fast and you're not really sure. There's kind of an uncertainty behind it, a lack of control. But let's see. The message for you, what the dream is trying to tell you, and if there's any advice. Okay, so that's being represented by the King of Chalices, or the King of Cups in traditional tarot. And I think that's just telling you the King of Cups is somebody who has mastered emotional balance, somebody who is in touch with their emotions but isn't ruled by them, someone who rules over their emotions. So I think that's telling you to think about when maybe that's the control part, is like you feel like you're just, the whole Chariot is like your emotions and you're on a roller coaster with them, and this is telling you to take a few breaths, and kind of cool your emotions and listen to them, listen to what they're trying to tell you, but then also realize when they are leading you astray. And the lesson from the dream is being represented by the 8 of Coins, or 8 of Pentacles. And I always think of this card as like putting the work in. And this one's being represented by clocks. So this is like, what do you want to give your time to? So with the whole message of the friends, the lack of control, the like limited resources, or being scared about your resources going away, it's like really pay attention to where you're putting your time, where you spend your time, and see if it's really taking you to where your goals want to go. I don't know if this feels as much like a dream reading. Maybe it relates to your dream, but it feels like it's talking about, very clearly about a real life situation. Maybe time is always an element in your dream. You always feel like you're being rushed, or everything's taking a really long time. Think of, like, look how proud he is of the time he's put into what he's working on. I think it could be telling you, and maybe that's about the history with the friends. Be proud of the time you spent. There's also kind of you can appreciate it for what it was, but maybe it's not propelling you towards your goals right now. Those connections. I didn't even talk about the wands at the bottom of the deck. The Ace of Wands. That's usually about an inspiration. Maybe the inspiration is the thing that the thing that is making you change your perspective on how you want to spend your time. You've had an inspiration and there's this passion that you want to go after, but it brings up all these questions about everything else in your life. Yeah, I think that's it for your reading. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you'll comment if there's anything you want to tell me about. And maybe subscribe. I hope to do a lot more of these videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Good night. Hello, group number 3, and welcome to your reading, your dream interpretation. So first off, I just want to say that the energy while I was shuffling was so different. It was very focused, like, okay, I'm doing this, where with the other piles I felt like my mind was wandering, and I kind of was just like, okay, what like thinking about like technicalities and stuff like that. This one I was like very focused and just right to the task. I don't know, felt worth mentioning. So let's see what the tarot has to tell you about your dream or dreams as of late. Ooh. Okay. All right. I love this deck so much. Sorry if the stand shakes. I hate that it does that. Okay. So the past event that is that caused this dream to happen for you is being represented by Temperance. So in this deck, I feel like the figure is so like bored and kind of calm. Maybe it's like this mastery of tempering their emotions and their energy. They're like even just balancing the foot on like the cup on their foot. And I always think of like the water is representing emotions, so it's like it's tempering your emotions, and you're almost like bored by like, oh yeah, I've got that mastered. I also know that the road usually represents, I think for Temperance, it's like a path through, well, you're about to experience the devil. Like in the storyline of the major arcana, the next card is the devil. And so that could be what the mountains represent. I don't know why that feels worth mentioning. But yeah, so this dream feels like... yeah, like you've reached some kind of like level up and like really nice level of conscious understanding of yourself. And it's almost like caused some kind of boredom. And then, so the dream itself, the theme of it is being represented by the Four of Cups, which in this deck I get a really different feeling from it than with the other decks. Usually there's like this cup being offered out of nowhere, and the person's kind of focused on the other three, and again, like very bored and basically just like not aware of opportunities that are being offered to them. But this one feels like resting. It feels more like the Four of Swords. So the dream itself may feel very inactive, with little bits of like murky thoughts and feelings. I also think too it's really interesting that the water in this one looks like static, like electricity. It doesn't look like the water in the rest of the suit. So sometimes I think of this as like this unsettled feeling of, I think I described it to someone as like, it feels like your like energy is vibrating and like you want to do something but you don't know what. Like you have this, you want to just go after something but you don't really know what to act on or what to do. I don't think that's the clearest I've ever described it. Clearly I'm having a lot of trouble talking and getting thoughts across in this pile. So it's funny because it's like this almost feels like this sense of mastery, maturity, and balance over your your emotional state, and yet like it keeps you from being able to communicate almost. And so your bottom of the deck energy, or like the card that ended up at the bottom of the deck, is being represented by the Six of Swords. Six of Cords. I'll get on your corduroys. But yeah, that's usually about like moving into calmer waters and like getting yourself out of a bad situation. Oh, and look, I didn't even notice that the Four of Swords is right next to this as your waking life block. So, this is the one that can either represent like a warning or an encouragement. And I'm having a hard time because it's about resting. Clearly, it's about like you've had maybe one of your first big obstacles, or like the Three of Swords is a heartbreak, something that really like gut-wrenching happens. And this is you resting and just kind of what do they say? Something about losses. I can't remember anything right now, but so this is either like a warning not to, like, that you've gotten complacent, which kind of makes sense with these two, or it's an encouragement that you need to rest, like you have to allow yourself to rest. And I feel like I just basically am always telling everybody rest. We have such like this like go mentality, most of us, and I think everybody needs to rest more. I don't know, it's really interesting too in this depiction. I don't know that I've really looked at this one very much, but like where the swords are facing, because I usually think of, the swords kind of represent our thoughts and mental challenges, and it's interesting that they're coming from this planet and shooting outwards. Usually for the Four of Swords, it's like they're resting on one, and then there's like three pointing down at them, kind of like the axe about to drop. And maybe these are like, if you imagine the gravity of it, maybe these are going to swoop down and like bring you out of this rest when you need to. So again, it's that encouragement to rest. Or that if you keep doing it, you will be yanked out of it in a way that's not as pleasant. And then for your message, what kind of advice the dream might be getting across to you is the Six of Cups. And the Six of Cups is all about nostalgia, and it just has a very sweet energy to it. I like this one with the fish. Usually there's like these kind of children on a cart with flowers, and it's all about like stopping to smell the flowers, and some people think it's about like romantic counterparts and stuff. I don't know how I feel about that, but this one for you is a message for the dream. I think like stop and smell the roses is always an important thing, so especially if you're feeling very complacent, and like this dream energy is coming from a very stable but kind of stuck, doesn't know where the next place is. So the Six of Cups for that is like, it may take a lot of like pulling out of your imagination to see what is nice about the current situation, about your current situation. But there are nice things, nice little details to pay attention to in the meantime. And like, again with this Temperance, I'm getting like maturity to a point of like boredom and like almost thinking you're above it. And this is reminding you that no matter how like well learned you think you are, there's always still nice, sweet things that you can learn or realize, or that exist out there, even if you think you're like above that to some degree. I don't know, I don't mean to like I love temperance, so I don't know why it's giving me such a, but it's just this sleep energy all the way around. And maybe you're sleeping a lot and having a lot of dreams, and that's why this is coming up. That's why you're drawn to this reading. And it's to the point where the sleep isn't like providing you the sweetness anymore. And your lesson from the dream is the King of Swords. So that's all about I mean, the king is usually about coming at things from a cool-minded, some even say cold kind of place. But he also has these like eyes on his chest. So it's like see with your heart, speak with your mind. So that could be telling you if you're feeling this, I can't think of any other word for it, but complacency. If you're feeling like this intense, not even intense, like complacency isn't intense, it's so dull. If you're feeling that, it's like remember to look at things with your heart, from your heart, even if you have a very guarded heart. If you've had to be really hardened with time and you speak in a very cutting manner, like it's okay to do that, but don't forget that there's still a heart in there, no matter how much it's guarded. And this is the thing that can connect you back with that. Remember what things felt sweet to you, and then look for what things evoke that similar feeling for you, or just like bring a whole new feeling out of thin air. There's just something so sweet too about like the playfulness of fish. Go like splash around in the water, and it's, I mean, well, again, water is like emotions. So I feel like the dream is letting you know that maybe your feeling of collectedness is coming from a disconnect with your emotions, which is probably some sort of like protective measure, but you can protect yourself and still be tuned into your heart. I get a very fiery feeling from the sword court cards in this deck, even though it's like air. They're, you know, representative of air. I think he has like a little bit of a sense of humor too. Like, you know, those people that have, like, they look like they're judging all the time, and maybe they are, but they have a real sense of humor about it. I don't know if you can see that. I mean, he does look very stern, but I just looked at his hand and heard, that's a knee slapper. Like, you're probably not going to get that response out of that dude. I'm also thinking too, sometimes these cards show up when they're either like representing a part, like I obviously talked about it as like representing traits that you possess and may want to either like take back a little bit or like lean into, but they also can represent other people. So maybe the lesson is that somebody you look up to, who has a very King of Swords energy, is what encouraged you to be this calm, cool, collected person. But it's also like disconnected you a little bit from some joy and your emotions. Anyways, I've rambled on enough. Thank you for watching this video. If you want to leave me a comment telling me how you liked it, whether you liked it, any kind of improvements I can make, I would really appreciate it. But thank you for letting me read for you, and have a good night.